Lafayette Urban Ministry was started by four wonderful gentlemen, Jim Davidson, Tom Hull, Ron Ellie, and Don Need. They got together and did a lot of early research into the very beginnings of LUM, which was the Neighborhood Development Project, which was a social ministry project of Hope Chapel Presbyterian Church.
And I think the catalyst to make this all happen was Ron Illy. Ron Illy had a vision of churches working together, and he was able to bring people together.
Next thing you know, more churches became involved in supporting the work of Hope Chapel Presbyterian Church. It got to the point where it grew too big for Hope Chapel, and Lafayette Urban Ministry was incorporated and born in 1972, and the rest is history, so they say.
LUM was riding a wave of mainline denominations who wanted to be more engaged in the community. It was part of the spirit of the age, to be more engaged, to get outside of the stained glass prison and be out into the community.
So it wasn't really something that was unusual back then. What is unusual is Lafayette Urban Ministry is probably one of the few remaining urban ministries that started back then that is still up and running and thriving and doing good in its local community. Even though we're very different, we're Methodist, Unitarian, Presbyterian, we're Roman Catholic, we're peace congregations, we're Reformed tradition. The one thing we all have in common is we know that Christ calls us to serve and to love, and that Scripture calls us to do justice.
We came about a mission statement. We wanted to do something more than just the usual. The Lafayette Urban Ministry is a group of churches who do, nice projects in the community. We started out with, poverty is the greatest thief. More than depriving a neighbor of food or shelter or warmth, it steals away hope. While other thieves may take away the past, poverty steals the future and self-respect. So whenever we develop program, we were thinking, how can we do this in ways that enhances low-income people, that builds self-respect and shows respect to them.
We started as a emergency assistance program that helped people stay in their homes from becoming homeless. We paid utility bills. We would cover doctor bills, transportation emergencies. And we did so much of that that LUM really couldn't help but learn a lot about what it was that low-income families were dealing with.
But I always had a notion that an urban ministry should be about service, for sure. It should be about empowering people, the marginalized, and it should be looking out in public policy for justice for the poor. And, it didn't do all of those things all the time, and especially at first. When I first arrived, their big project was to provide transportation for the seniors. Great idea, much needed, but it didn't have the ability to hit those three areas. I call them kind of like the three legs of a stool. I always was taken by that passage in Micon. What does the Lord require? But to do justice. It starts out with doing justice, and then loving kindness and goodness, and then walking humbly with God. So I think from the very beginning, I had in my mind, and I certainly spread it to others, that the ministry had to have three legs. Service, sure. Empowerment, of course. But most importantly, it must do justice. Ministries like LUM, many of them were created in the latter 60s and early 70s, but only a few, and LUM being one of them, survived. Why? I think because we had deeper roots than service. You know, service can come and go. Like you said, programs come and go, but seeking justice is something you do long term. And it gives you roots, both in your community and with people.
Youth programs have, through the past 50 years, been an important part of LUM, starting, of course, with LUM Camp, which was LUM's first program back in the days of the Neighborhood Development Project. But that's grown to Jubilee Christmas. It's grown to the after-school program. And I think that if you're trying to have an impact on systemic poverty, best thing to do is to work with children. And then, of course, there's the social justice pieces, and you know, you can look at all the victories, which over time you tend to remember. You don't tend to remember the difficulties in getting to those victories, but there's WIC, the Women, Infants, and Children program that's here because of LUM. There's free textbooks for low-income children throughout the state of Indiana that are now in place because of LUM. There are efforts to help with making the tax structure more progressive that are here because of LUM. So I think that when taken as a whole, LUM has been a remarkably prolific organization when it comes to creating and implementing programs. But it all has stemmed from a place of faith and a place of this fierce urgency of now.